Well, good evening, Central Georgia. It was another warm one with temperatures into the upper 80s, but overall it was a beautiful day. But tomorrow, that story changes as the front's going to move in. So we're going to see showers and the potential for strong and severe thunderstorms during that time. So that's why we have a weather impact alert in effect starting tomorrow evening. Let me take this full screen just to show you. This is in effect for tomorrow evening. But the thing about this system is it's expected to stall not only for the rest of Sunday, but for almost the entirety of Monday. This is actually going to leave Monday late night. So that's why we have that weather impact alert extended all the way towards the end of Monday. So the specific impacts, of course, if we do see any severe weather, severe thunderstorms, one of the things that they need is to have winds up to 60 miles per hour to constitute as a severe thunderstorm. But the reason why we are also highlighting isolated flash flooding is because since it's lingering for that long period of time, we could see potentially flash flooding, especially for our northwestern counties, as I'd say 4 to even 5 inches of rain is possible during that time. Now, the third, of course, is brief spin-up tornadoes. We just had those 2 tornadoes in Houston County. The good thing is this is the last impact that I'm concerned about. The reason why we have this is because, of course, with any springtime system, any front, you're always going to have some ingredients there for tornadoes to develop, but really it's not that impressive, not as impressive as the chances last Monday and the chances 2 weeks ago. So let's start off by looking at temperatures right now in the upper 70s. It's 9 o'clock, and the fact that we're flirting with the 80s is absolutely insane. And just goes to show how warm we've been for the past couple of days. Here is the day 2 outlook. This is the outlook for tomorrow. And this has actually been good because earlier today, the Storm Prediction Center changed their outlook. So originally yesterday, if you watched the evening shows yesterday, you may remember that the SBC level 2 out of 5 risk was mainly for the western half. So places such as Macon, Gray, Jasper County, Macon County, parts of Houston County, they were in a level 2. But earlier today, that risk was trimmed all the way back towards the most northwestern counties. So half of Monroe County, all of Upson County, half of Taylor County, and portions of Crawford County are the only areas that are under a level 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather. And then that level 1 that covered the majority of the eastern half, well, that also got trimmed back. So now that line that ends that level 1 out of 5 risk, well, it goes through Wilcox County, it goes through parts of Dodge County, the western half of Lawrence County, the western half of Washington County. So that just means that the severe weather chances overall are decreasing, but I still think that it's possible. I think the window of severe weather will be in the late afternoon, early evening when the storm is arriving for the northwestern counties, so the areas under that level 2 out of 5 risk, because it's coming in with the heat of the day. It's coming in the afternoon where the temperatures are at their highest and the air is at its most unstable condition. So that front is feeding into that energy. So that's where we have the highest chance of severe weather. But after that, it turns mainly into a rainmaker, especially for the overnight into Monday. We also have a low end level 1 for places such as the southern half of Telfair County, Wheeler County, and Montgomery County. This is just due to the front just moving on out, but it's also going into areas that are resupplied with energy because the sun just comes back out in the afternoon. So there's just a small chance of severe weather for those areas for Monday afternoon, but really I don't think we're going to see much for those areas on Monday. I think the cloud cover will be a little too sporadic, and that will limit instability overall for Monday. So of course the timing. Let's get into the timing. So the rest of the overnight today is going to be great. Just some partly cloudy conditions. Then it's going to be mostly cloudy 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. But here is that front moving in. It's moving into Atlanta by 2 to 3 o'clock. Could influence the Atlanta Braves Marlins game during that time. But notice it's coming in very organized, very similar to some of the other fronts that we've seen in this past couple of weeks. But once it goes into our northwestern counties, it starts to break apart. and it starts to disorganize. That's a good sign. That just means that it's weakening, sort of corresponding to what the SBC is showing. But I still think this is the window where we'll have our highest chances of severe weather. So from 4, 5, 6, and 7 o'clock for those areas under that level 2 out of 5 risk. I think that's where the highest risk of severe weather is, and that's the window where we could potentially see severe weather. Once the sun sets, notice that you see less reds, yellows, and we see a lot more greens. That's the system turning more into a rainmaker. The dynamics for storms start to become less in nature, and it just becomes rounds of rain throughout the overnight. But notice how it stalls, and those rounds of rain is just only for places mainly west of I-75. That's just going to be the story for the majority of Monday morning before finally moving eastward. So places such as Dodge, Lawrence, Telfair, Wheeler, Truitland, Johnson, Washington County, they're finally getting into the rain party, finally getting into the action by Monday late morning. Then the heart of the system goes into those areas 11 o'clock into the afternoon. We can see another big wave of just purely rain. And then by 10 o'clock, 10 to 11 o'clock, finally out of our area for good. So just notice how long that system just really parked itself in central Georgia. That's why we're highlighting the flood risk overall, mainly over tornado chances, just because of just that amount of time it's in our area. Once that front leaves, then Tuesday, going back to the clear, nice weather. And then here's the long range forecast for you. Tuesday, Wednesday, back to beautiful. Then our next rain chance comes on Thursday, but overall, that rain chance is just really low. We just have another front move in, but the dynamics are relatively weak. Here's another look at a model. This is what we call the high resolution model. And as you can see, just like that graph model, that model that I just showed you, front coming in very organized and clean. And then as it goes into the northwestern counties, it just starts to disorganize. You can see the colors turn from bright to dark green, indicating that this will turn more into a rainmaker during that time, during that morning hours, because it's just being taken away from its fuel supply. And then this is unfortunately how as far as it can go by 5 in the morning. But overall, I think in the overnight, we're not going to expect much storms. Still, a rumble of thunder is possible. So here's the rainfall predictions by our graph model for the next 2 days. So for the northwestern counties, we're expecting the rainfall amounts to be at their highest. So not only do they have the highest chances of severe weather, but they also have the highest chances of flooding, just due to the unfortunate fact that that system will park there for the majority of the overnight. So it's predicting 4 inches or 4.6 inches in Forsyth. I think we could see locally higher amounts in those areas as well. I'd say 5 inches is not something that is impossible. I think 5 inches could definitely happen in those areas. And then as we start to see places more towards the southeast, the rainfall totals decrease. So Macon, 2.5 inches, Warner Robins, 3. Then you get into Cochrane, 1.6, 1.4 in Eastman, 1.3 in Dublin. So these totals that are shown in the screen, I don't think it's going to be the exact totals that we'll come away with, but overall, I think it shows the trend of where the highest rainfall totals will be towards the northwest, and then the totals overall decrease as we progress through the southeast. So because of those high totals that are predicted or that are projected by the models, we are under a flood watch for Upson County, Monroe County, Jasper, and Putnam County. And this is in effect until tomorrow in the morning at around 8 until Monday all the way to 8 o'clock. And I think that's really good. It corresponds very well to what the models show in terms of the timing of the front moving on out. And of course, I mentioned that tornadoes are kind of my least of my worries, but it's still, let me show you the chances for tomorrow. So we get into tomorrow, that front moves in. Notice our chances start around that time, but they're very low. So I'd say around 2 weeks ago, when we had that level 3, the first level 3, not the one on Monday, The tornado chances, we had yellows, we even had some red shaded areas, and we were pretty concerned about the tornado chances. It was a little bit more elevated than usual. Monday, the tornado chances were not extreme, but we knew that it was decent, and we ended up having those 2 tornadoes in Houston County. This one, notice it's just really low. It is just light shaded white, and we could have some light greens in there, but this is during the time where it's in the overnight and it's just being taken away from heat. So that's why I'm not impressed overall by the tornado chances. So if you have tornado anxiety at all, and if you're worried about tomorrow, well, if you're more into the areas towards the east, I think your chances are relatively low, next to none. But if you're in towards the northwest, towards those northwestern counties, those areas under the level 2, I'd say the chances are a little bit higher, but also not extreme. So that's something to note in terms of tornado chances. Now, here are the temperatures. I think this also paints a story because, of course, the higher the temperatures and when you have moisture together, the higher chances of seeing storms and potentially strong to severe storms. So I'm just going to show you the timing of everything in terms of when we'll see the highest of the temperatures as compared to the next day. This is tomorrow morning, waking up really, really warm into the upper 60s. Notice there, once again, back into the upper 80s, and there is that green line right there. Let's see if I can get that pointer. There we go. Yeah, notice that boundary, that difference between the green and the red. That's the storms moving in. Not necessarily the cold air from the front, but those are the storms moving on in around 4 to 5 o'clock, going into really warm stuff. So that's why I always highlight the highest chances of seeing severe weather is during 4 to 7 o'clock. I'm just going to bring it back. 4 to 7 o'clock. And then the overall temperatures decrease around that time into the overnight. So with those temperatures into the lower 70s, I think the energy is a lot less than what the storms had to work with when they entered the northwestern counties before sunset. So that's why I always highlight the severe weather chances are at their highest during that window from 4 to 7 o'clock in the evening. And then here's noon of Monday. And this is where it gets interesting. And this is why I think some of those areas under in Telfair, Wheeler, and Montgomery, I think those are this is the main reason why they're in that level 1 out of 5 risk for severe weather for Monday. Because notice temperatures start to rebound at that exact moment, around 11 o'clock in the morning. Let's see if I can point. There we go. I don't think I can use my pointer there. But notice that those areas are still under some yellow, some oranges. Temperatures will be relatively high. They'll be into the upper 70s, flirting with the 80s. So that's why I think the Storm Prediction Center, they saw that, and they went ahead and just played it safe and added those areas under a level 1 out of 5 risk for severe weather. I still think the chances of seeing severe weather in those areas are still relatively low, even with the temperatures rebounding back to the upper 70s. And then here's the main story with the front moving on out. This is the main story. The temperatures cooling on down, and I think we'll see temperatures 20 degrees cooler than what we experienced earlier this week. So I think we'll wake up potentially into the lower 40s, and then we'll see, I think we'll see 60s on Tuesday. And I think the temperatures are not going to be really cool, only in the mornings in the lower 40s, but I think in the afternoons we'll be in the upper 60s and lower 70s. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast just to show you, just to summarize the weather for the next week. So our weather impact alert starts tomorrow evening, and I think that's where the system will come in. It could come in a little earlier. I'd say 4 to 7 o'clock, that golden window for potentially severe weather only for the northwestern counties. And then it starts to stall for the western half of central Georgia throughout the overnight. So places such as places in the southeastern counties, they have the chance of not seeing a drop of rain throughout Sunday. But then the system will then move towards the east. So that's when they'll finally see some rain and potentially rumbles of thunder. So that's why we have a 100% chance of rain for Monday, because that's when definitively everyone will see rain during that time. Front will move in, cold air will come in from the back end, and that's where we'll see temperatures into the lower 40s in the morning and potentially upper 60s and lower 70s. So way cooler than what we experienced earlier this week. So that's just a recap on the storms. So now it's time to go over the questions. Let's see. All right. Let's bring it back to the future view, because I already know most of the questions are going to be in regards to timing. So I am going to bring this back. I'm just going to bring it back to this window just so that everyone can see. JD Bray, anyone remember April 5th, 2022? I definitely do not. I was in Penn State, but I mean, honestly, I think the first week of April was kind of cursed here in Central Georgia, because we had we had the one tornado in Centerville last year and the tornado in Chris County, I believe April 3rd of last year. Hope it washes this nasty pollen away. Yes, it will. It will definitely will. Or it definitely will wash off the pollen. So that's one of the positives from this. Can we see the risk level map again? Absolutely. So here's the risk level map. And once again, I think this is very good news as compared to yesterday. Yesterday, most of our western half was under that level 2. Now it was trimmed back for our just far northwestern counties, which is, I think it's a good sign. And I'm very curious to see what the update is tomorrow. I think there's a chance to see more areas trimmed away. But overall, seeing the trend of the SPC pulling back the areas, the risk levels, that's always good, because typically the trend is extending it. And you probably saw that last week when we had a level 2 for all of Central Georgia last Sunday or last Saturday, and then it was upgraded to a level 3. So that trend was, of course, extending to even upgrading. Well, now this trend is pulling it back and downgrading it, meaning that the system overall is weaker than what it was originally expected to be. And then once again, I just want to highlight the day 3 outlook. I don't want to ignore that. We do have a low-end level 1 for the far southeastern areas, so half of Telfair, Wheeler, and Montgomery. Once again, just the reason why they have this is because the system's going in once again to recovered air. It will happen into the mid-afternoon or early afternoon, so temperatures will once again recover. But I still think this is more of a precaution more than anything. What is Butler, Georgia looking like around 5:30 tomorrow? So 5:30, I think Butler will start to see the storm arrive. And Butler, I think, is within that level 2. I know at least half of Taylor County is, so you might be within the line of the level 1 and level 2. So around that time, 5:30 tomorrow, I think that's when the system will arrive. It could be a little bit later or a little bit earlier. The graph has had moments where it was perfect on the timing, but it wasn't that good last week. Last week it was, it showed a timing, I think, like 2 hours earlier than what actually happened. So around 5:30, according to this model, the front will move in, and I think this is where the chances of severe weather is at their highest. Now, what I'm hoping for is for a late arrival. That would be amazing. A late arrival would mean that our severe weather chances would go out the window, because the whole point of our severe weather chances is because the system is moving into air that is warmed up, caused by the warm temperatures. It is unstable. So when you have that interaction with the front, that's when storms will then lift on up, fire, and you get those nasty type of weather. So that's why we were always cautious, and that's why we had the weather impact alert at first. But now it's looking more like a rainmaker. But according to this model, it looks like the weather will start around that time. What time do I think about Milledgeville? So it goes into Baldwin County around like 7, 8 o'clock, but it all depends on where it stalls. So this model shows that you could see some potentially rumbles of thunder, some storms, and some showers around that time. I think you could start to see the first signs of the weather right around 6 to 7 o'clock. But if it stalls a little bit more towards the west, there's a chance that you could go throughout the night without seeing anything. So it all depends on how far off towards the west it stalls. Brandon Bender, are we going to be all right? I think so. I think we're going to be all right. Once again, I don't think it's going to be as robust as the system on Monday, and I don't think it's going to be as robust as the one 2 weeks ago. But once again, as Alyssa said, I'd rather be overly cautious. Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole reason why we have this weather impact alert. We have a lot of signs that show that the system is weakening, but once again, the weather is very unpredictable. Last second, it could decide to do something, but overall, things look promising. The things look promising. So better to be prepared than unprepared. But once again, if the timing is correct with this model, I think the severe weather chances are at their highest in between that 4 to 7 o'clock window. And then also, I just want to highlight once again, if you came in late, with this, I think, turning into more of a rainmaker during the overnight, I think the main concern with that is potentially flooding. And we haven't had a flooding concern since Helene. So that's why we really want to highlight this, because I mean, it's still relatively new, especially this year. And especially for the northwestern counties where the system will stall. So they'll have a bunch of rain dumped on them all in a short period of time, which could be a little concerning. I'm seeing the darkest red area maybe coming into Forsyth. Yeah, so I think Forsyth has higher chances of seeing inclement weather rather than places towards the east. I think Forsyth, they have a chance of seeing severe weather. I think Forsyth is under that level 2 out of 5 risk. But also another thing that Forsyth could see is just long periods of rain, which of course we really need it. We haven't had consistent rain, so that's going to wash out the pollen, but it could also cause potential flooding. So I think that's why Forsyth could see worse weather than some of the other areas, and you're also in a flood risk. I hope Helene was our last hurricane. I hope so too, but unfortunately we're within close proximity to the Big Bend, and there's just a lot of activity over there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see at least one hurricane for this upcoming season. Hopefully it won't be as bad as Helene. Helene was absolutely terrible. Okay, I am just going to go back to the impacts once again, since there's not many questions in regards to the timing. Here's just a brief summary on what we could expect tomorrow. So, of course, this is the first headline, gusty to damaging winds. That headline will always be the main headline for any of these spring storms, so don't be too alarmed by it. I think gusty and damaging winds, yes, it will be the main concern. For areas under that level 2 out of 5 risk, that will have the highest chance of seeing severe weather. But Mainly, I'm really concerned about isolated flash flooding. I think this is going to turn more of a rainmaker for all of central Georgia. Some rumbles of thunder are possible, of course, but for everyone, I think everyone's going to see a rain, and maybe a little bit too much rain than what we can handle. So that's why isolated flash flooding is added to this impact list. And then, of course, brief spin-up tornado. That can happen, but I do not think it's as impressive in terms of chances as compared to last Monday and even 2 weeks ago. All right, so I will, I think I'm gonna stick around for one more minute. I'm not seeing any more questions, which is a good thing. Hopefully each and every one of y'all who watch the stream or have a good understanding on what could happen tomorrow. But if there we go, yeah, 9:28. Yeah, it seems like questions aren't coming in. Oh, there you go, Jeff. Haven't seen the timeline. Keeps stopping midway. Okay, Lawrence and Trutland. Lawrence and Trutland is a really interesting case, and I'm glad you asked that question because I can talk about this more in depth. So Lawrence and Trutland, let me go back. Lawrence and Trutland have the chance of not seeing anything tomorrow. So we've been highlighting this weather impact alert. And it's like starting tomorrow evening into the end of Monday. But Lawrence and Trutland could just see no weather, just because it will stall towards the northwest. So the system moves in towards the northwestern counties by 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and evening. Once again, that's where the severe weather chances are at their highest. But notice this, it just stalls throughout the rest of the day Sunday and into the overnight Monday. So Lawrence and Trutland not seeing anything. You could potentially see zero rain, zero weather for tomorrow overall. You could have just a mostly cloudy day. And then once we get into Monday late morning, that's when the system finally moves towards your area. So you'll get rain, maybe some rumbles of thunder. And this is just going to continue for the majority of Monday. I think Monday will be the main weather day for you. Just barrages of rain. I think thunderstorm activity is going to be at its minimum, but you could hear some potential rumbles of thunder. But I think the thunderstorm chances are higher for the northwestern counties. And you could be one of the last few areas to see rain during Monday. I'm sorry that sped up a little bit. Oh, sorry. So yeah, once it moves out 10 to 11 o'clock at night on Monday, places such as Lawrence and Trutland could be one of the final places to see it. Came in late. Please show the storms when it'll come in Houston County. Okay. Going back to Sunday. So for Houston County, I think you could potentially see some of the storms around 6 to 7 o'clock, and you could see some broken cells with it. I don't think it'll be super cells, but some broken cells around the late night. But I think you'll see a little bit more constant rain, more steady rain throughout the overnight, just based off how many rounds of rain really come through into the morning. So I think Houston County, they're one of the few areas that could have some high rainfall totals. In terms of the storms, once again, best chances into the afternoon and evening. But it looks like in terms of the timing, could be like around 6 to 7 o'clock at night. Not as early as places such as Monroe County or Upson County or even Jasper County. But could be a little later at night in terms of when the rain and storms arrive. And I just want to highlight, we had the potential for strong to severe storms, but I think this will be mainly for a rainmaker for all of central Georgia. So if you're, for people living in Lawrence, Wilkinson, and Pulaski County, I want the main thing for them to understand is those chances of strong to severe thunderstorms, it will not be as high as, say, if you live more towards the northwest in Monroe County. I think it'll be mainly rain for y'all. All right, Maryland Price, how much rain will Lamar County get? And I'm also going to answer your question, Alyssa. Yeah, it does look like an all-day rain event from Telfair County. That's why, once again, we're really highlighting that flood risk, because this just looks to stall, just looks to dump all that rain in just a short amount of time. So for Lamar County, it doesn't show the specific total, but notice Lamar County is under that yellow swath just next to Forsyth. That indicates higher amounts. So while it's not specifically shown, and I don't think that the specific values will be the actual values that we'll see for Monday or for the next 2 days, I think Lamar County will have one of the highest rainfall totals. So my guess, my range will be, I'd say 4 to 5 inches of rain for Lamar County. Yeah, no, and that's a really good point, Ann. Yes, as you mentioned, a great way to phrase it. The climate cool down and decrease the fuel. That's exactly what we're expecting. Now, I still think you can see rumbles of thunder, or hear rumbles of thunder, but I don't think it will be as robust. I don't think we're expecting just nasty storms like what we have been talking about for the past couple of months, where we're highlighting overnight storms. I don't think so. I don't think it will be like that at all. Okay. Let's see. And I'm just going to put this flood watch right here. I would not be surprised if we see more areas added to the flood watch. This is just very preliminary at the moment. So Upson, Lamar, Monroe, Jasper, and Putnam County, those are the areas currently under the flood watch. Those are the areas in which we're really expecting high total amounts because of the initial stall. But we could definitely see some more areas a little bit towards the east. So I wouldn't be surprised if Crawford, Taylor, Jones, and maybe even Bibb County, with how high Okmulgee has been, I wouldn't be surprised if they get added to the flood watch. What about Perry? So Perry, you're close enough to the west where I think you could see potential storms during tomorrow evening, during that window. But I don't think it will be as organized, and I don't think the severe weather chances are as high as, say, Monroe County and Taylor County, but I still think it's possible. More possible than areas such as Dodge and Lawrence County. But I think it'll start a little bit later as compared to the Northwest. So I think, say, 7, 8 o'clock at night, that's when the activity starts to pick up. And then it's just going to be constant rain, maybe some rumbles of thunder. But overall, the main story for tomorrow late night into Monday would just be barrages of rain, which could be good. Could be good to go to sleep. I know the sound of rain is a soothing sound. So I think it's just going to be constant sound of raindrops, and it will linger until Monday night. So it could be around 8 o'clock where the rain finally stops for Perry. What about Dublin? Dublin, one of those places where they could really miss out on the weather for tomorrow because of that stall. So notice Dublin, not seeing much during Sunday, not seeing anything actually. This could potentially change. You could see a little bit more rain, but Dublin has a chance of not seeing any weather. But then Monday morning, that's when that system finally goes through and goes into Dublin, Lawrence County. You have a chance of a rumble of thunder, but it's more just constant rain throughout Monday, and then finally being clear from the rain Monday late night. So those southeastern counties, they really have a chance of just not seeing much weather. All right, Johnson County, so Kite, Georgia, same thing as Lawrence County. So actually having a higher chance of not seeing anything throughout Sunday. I'm just going to play it back once again. So this is the front coming in, potentially giving strong to severe storms for the northwestern counties by that window, 4 to 7 o'clock in the evening. Then just stalling, just not moving more towards the east. So Johnson County has that chance once again to not see much, maybe a rumble of thunder, but really nothing is being shown through these models. And then finally seeing some rain and maybe some thunderstorms by Monday late morning. And it's just going to be, once again, constant rounds of rain throughout Monday. And I think probably Johnson County could see maybe an inch or maybe 2 inches of rain during that time. And then finally, you'll be clear by the late night Monday hours. Warner Robins. So Warner Robins, they have a chance of seeing storms. I don't think it will be as strong as maybe Monroe County, Taylor County, places under that level 2 out of 5 risk. But I still think you could potentially see some storms with a later arrival, say maybe like 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And they'll be one of the, Warner Robins will be one of the areas that will see constant rounds of rain all throughout the overnight. So yes, while rumbles of thunder throughout the overnight are possible, I think it's just going to be just constant rain. And I think Warner Robins could have decent amounts of rainfall totals. So I'd say maybe 3 inches at high, or the highest chance, or the highest rainfall totals possible, 4 inches. So flooding may be an issue, but I don't think it'll be as big as an issue as compared to Monroe County and Upson County. And then finally by 8 o'clock, that's when that you should be clear from the rain. All right, Bleckley County. Bleckley County, you're getting into that area where that expected stall of the storm or of the rain is getting close. So there's a little bit of uncertainty for Bleckley County. There's a chance that you can see a rumble, and there's a chance that you just couldn't see any rain at all. I mean, it's just one of those uncertain areas. It all depends on where it stalls and where it stays. So if it stays a little bit towards the west, there's a chance, you won't experience any weather until Monday morning, and then it'll just be mainly rain for Bleckley County. So I think, just to move it back, I think right around 3 to 4 o'clock, that's when Bleckley County will finally see rain and potentially rumbles of thunder. But once again, this will be mainly for Monday. I'm really unsure in terms of the weather chances for Sunday. But once again, Bleckley County looking like mainly a rain event. Severe weather chances are relatively low. Actually, I don't even think Bleckley County is under a risk at all. So if you have any storm anxieties in general, I think you'll be overall good for the next 2 days. Is it just rain or is it severe? So I think it all depends on where you live. The severe weather chances will be mainly for the northwestern counties. So if you live in Monroe County, Crawford, Taylor, Upson, Lamar, Jasper, that's where I'll have a little bit more awareness towards severe weather. But if you live more towards the east, then yeah, it's more of a rainmaker for y'all. Okay, I'll take a couple more questions, starting with Baldwin and Macon County. All right, so starting with Baldwin. Baldwin, once again, getting into that area, getting into that gray zone. I think there's a little bit more certainty for Baldwin County to see potentially some storms and rain more than Bleckley County. And I think some of this could start by 6, 7 o'clock. So some storms are possible. I think you're under that level 1 out of 5 risk. So I don't think your severe weather chances are as high as, say, Monroe County, but still could be definitely possible, especially since you're expected to see that activity during that window from 4 to 7 o'clock. And then after that, it's just going to be constant rounds of rain throughout the overnight. And this could potentially last until Monday late night. So you could be one of those areas where you will see the longest periods of rainfall in central Georgia. But storm chances for Baldwin County, I think it will be during that window, 4 to 7 o'clock in the evening after sunset. The ingredients, the energy is a lot less. and it'll be mostly rain. Jim, what about Macon County? So Macon County, they could start to see some of these stuff. So you could potentially see some storms ahead of the front by the late night, so 9, 10 o'clock. And then you'll have, once again, constant rain throughout the overnight. So Monday morning. But the good thing is that you'll be one of the first places to be clear from the rain. So by 7 o'clock, I think you'll be clear from the rain. But once again, long periods of rain for Macon County, and storms are possible during tomorrow afternoon and evening. Warner Robins, let's see. So yeah, Warner Robins have the chance of seeing storms tomorrow afternoon, evening hours, so 7 to 6 o'clock. And some of these storms could be strong to severe, but I think they're under a level 1, so they won't be as high as, say, Monroe, Upson, and Jasper County. And I think after that, during the overnight, it's mainly going to be rain as that system just parks itself in west central Georgia. So it's going to be rain, and I think rainfall totals could be up to 3 to maybe even 4 inches for Warner Robins. So just constant rain throughout Monday, and then by 7, 8 o'clock, that's when you'll finally be clear from the rain. Okay, Gordon and Bibb County. Okay, so I'll start off with Gordon, Wilkinson County. So Wilkinson County, I think just like Baldwin County, they could see some of the storms also during that window, so potentially 7, 8 o'clock. So some of these storms could be strong depending on how much energy that it taps into. And if it comes in later than expected, that will be good. So yeah, that would be really good if it comes later than expected. Jim Ogden said I lost volume. Hopefully I didn't lose volume. Let's see. All right, hopefully you can hear me. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking about Gordon. Hopefully you can hear me. But Wilkinson County I think could still see some storms during that window. If it comes a little later, then the storm chances are way less than expected. But I think the rain will be continuous all throughout the overnight and actually well into Monday. And you could be one of the last few areas to see rain during that time. And then Bibb County, sorry, Carolyn. So Bibb County could also potentially see storms during that window, so potentially 5 to 7 o'clock. And since it's coming into the afternoon, potentially you could see some storms that could be strong to severe, but I think that's the only window where it will have severe weather chances. After that, it's going to be a rainmaker, and you're going to get rounds of rain throughout that time. And then Monday, once again, basically a washout, and you'll finally be clear from the rain by 7 o'clock in the evening. Hawley McCoy, same thing. So since Twiggs County is right next to Macon, I push this back right there. Yeah, Twiggs County is right next to Macon, same timing in a sense, 7 to 8 o'clock. That's when you'll first start to see some of the signs of the storms. And then if it comes a little later, then yeah, there's a chance you missed out on the storms, which is good because there's a lot less energy during the late portions of the night and into the overnight. So if it comes in by 7, 8 o'clock, there's a chance of strong to severe storms. If it comes in a little later, then no. But after that, it just becomes, once again, a rainmaker all throughout the morning and all throughout the afternoon Monday. And then by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, Twiggs County will finally be clear from the rain. All right, one more question, and then I have to prepare for the 11 o'clock show. But Upson County, is Upson County going to get bad storms? So it all depends on many factors, but unfortunately, Upson County is in that level 2 out of 5 risk. Now, I'm really hoping that Upson County, let me put back the day 2 risk outlook. I'm really hoping that the risk gets trimmed back even more away from us in central Georgia, and we're left with a level 1 out of 5 risk. But as of right now, Upson County has more of a chance of seeing severe weather than other places more towards the east in central Georgia. So with that, and I think you said something about your dog or something, I would be more aware for severe weather, but also rain. You'll be one of those areas where they'll see continuous rainfall for a long period of time, and I think flooding is definitely a concern for Upson County as well. Camping in LaGrange, when should we expect the rain? So I think LaGrange, let's see. I think LaGrange could definitely start to see the rain. You'll be one of the first people to start to see the rain, and you'll have a higher chance of seeing storms during that time as well. So let's see with LaGrange. So I think it'll be earlier in the afternoon for LaGrange. I know Atlanta could see it by 2 to 3 o'clock, but I think LaGrange could see it around that time as well. 3 o'clock is when you could start to see the rain. But I'd say the afternoon in general could be a little messy for LaGrange. And then for Macon, and I'll make this my last question since I'm getting close to 9:50. But for Macon, you have the chance for seeing some of the storms and the rain by 6 to 7 o'clock. And that, I think when it arrives, that's when you'll have the highest chance of seeing storms. But after that, it's going to linger throughout the overnight and throughout Monday afternoon. And that's where it's just going to be constant rain. And I think Macon could see 3 inches of rain, maybe even 4 inches of rain. So that's where it will become more of a flood risk. And then by Monday, 7 o'clock at night, that's when you'll finally be clear from the rain. So that's the timing for Macon. And I think that'll be my final question. So let me just pull it back full screen. So there's the recap for tomorrow's rain and storms, and that could actually last until Monday late night. So hopefully you were informed on what's to come. Once again, to summarize, I think the storm chances are highest towards the northwestern counties, and I think it's going to be more of a rain event for all of central Georgia. So I think flooding is more of an enhanced risk. But once again, gusty storms are still possible, especially during that time when places are seeing storms throughout 4 to 8 o'clock in the evening tomorrow. So once again, I don't think it'll be as bad as what we saw on Monday or the past couple of weeks, but still something to keep an eye out. We'll continue to give you more updates. I'll have the 11 o'clock show later tonight, and then Ansley Parker, she'll do an update tomorrow at 1, and I'll do one final update at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the line of storms, when the front will then finally move into our area. So I had a pleasure talking to you, and have a beautiful night, Central Georgia.